welcome you all. First, I am, as a matter of fact, a little bit shocked because 25 people registered for the seminar, and we are waiting for them. So I hope they will show up. Today we have, as a matter of fact, this is our 6th seminar. We have monthly seminars. Each month we focus on different aspects, different topics in Iran's Cultural Center. We invite scholars, researchers, professors from different fields related somehow to culture. And today we have the pleasure to host Professor Susanne Yngvesson, if I'm pronouncing it well.
Perfect.
Associate Professor at Stockholm School of Theology. She, as a matter of fact, since 2006, she is the director of the program at the Stockholm School of Theology. Also Associate Professor since spring 2013 of Ethics at Uppsala University. And she's in the area of her research and teaching is human rights and democracy, and also she teaches in a theology program in that school, systematic theology. And she focuses on some topics that are related to each other, like ethics, philosophy, which are very important, as a matter of fact, issues. She had her dissertation in the area of media ethics. So she wrote a dissertation on vision and surveillance, something related to morality, ethics in relation to technology. And the university, the school, Stockholm School of Technology, is a very, as a matter of fact, interesting school because it's kind of interdisciplinary school. And there are lots of interesting topics like culture, intercultural relations. They have a new program, master's program in intercultural relations. And also religion and ethics and philosophy and democracy and human rights. So these are really interesting. We are really pleased to have her here, and I hope we can have enough time to discuss about these pressing issues. So maybe 45, 50 minutes she will deliver her talk, and then we will have some questions and answers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. And I'm very sorry I'm so late. It was the traffic. We did what we could. It was a huge traffic situation. Now, you hear now? Okay. I will try to. Since we are so few, I suggest that if you have any questions during my lecture, you can just interrupt or give comments, and we can have a dialogue while I'm giving the lecture. So you don't have to wait until I'm finished, if you don't want to, of course. But I start, and we'll see where we end. So the theme of this lecture is religious symbols as language in Europe, some aspects of freedom of thought, conscience and religion. And this is one of the field, as Professor Amir introduced, this is one of the theme areas at the Stockholm School of Theology. So just as a reminder, I want to quote the Human Rights Article 18, what is said about freedom of religion. And it said, everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom either alone or in community with others, and in public or private, to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship and observance. So this is the freedom as it is expressed. And also in the Article 9 of the European Convention of Human Rights, it said that the freedoms are quite similar to the article in the United Nations Declaration. Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom either alone or in community with others, and in public or private, and to manifest his religion or belief in worship, teaching, practice and observance. And then there are some limitations in regard to these freedoms. And the limitations, freedom to manifest one's religion or beliefs shall be subject to only such limitations as are prescribed by law, so that is the national law or the international law, and are necessary in a democratic society in the interest of public safety, for the protection of public order, health and morals, or for the protection of the rights and freedoms of others. And when it comes to these limitations, of course there are interpretations then for the European Court or other kind of interpretations about what is this meaning, the necessary in a democratic society, for example, or when you associate to public safety. In what regard is that public safety in relation to the freedom of religion, making restrictions on not belief but in customs and in different kind of rituals and so on that can be limited within the law in regard to public safety or public order, health or morals. So as you see, it's a kind of quite difficult areas when it comes to these limitations. And as we know, these discussions about limitations of freedom of religion in Europe has concern for example, limitations in building minarets in Schweiz, or wearing the veil in public sphere in France, for example. So when you do these limitations, you relate it to a particular understanding of what secular is and public sphere, and also then in relation, for example, to public safety. So the interpretation of these limits are different in different countries, of course. And this question about what religion is, what is it then that is regarded as a freedom? Of course, it's the individual's right. It's not the religion per se, the religion's right to freedom. It's the individual's right to belong to a religion or not belong to a religion. But it's one definition of religion is that it is an organized collection of beliefs, cultural systems and worldviews that relate humanity to an order of existence. So that is one quite extensive way of describing what or define what religion is, and also religion in some way have to relate to some kind of organized behavior, or have some kind of clergy, or constitute adherence to membership for holy places and scriptures. And of course the very old religions in Europe, like the Jewish religion, the Christian or the Muslim religion, the Abrahamic religions are recognized with these kind of identities or attributes. But just last year there were a group of people, of atheists, who started a new religion, and they wanted to try to, in Sweden, they wanted to a bit, what do you call it, try this idea about freedom of religion. When you start a new religion, is that also protected then by this article about protection of freedom of religion? But it was not very clear in what regard this this group really was a religion. They said it themselves, and they gave some script for rituals they would have, but even though there were atheist group who were kind of wanted to regard it to be understood like a religion. And there are actually tendencies or movements in Europe of atheists who want to be like religions. Like it's for example, a French philosopher named Alain de Botton. You know his name? He has written a book that came last year, Religion for Atheists. And then his idea is that he copy everything good from all the religions, and then he make this religion for atheists. So you don't have to like believe in God and all that stuff. So you just keep the good things like the communion, in sharing food, or you do things together. Maybe you have the help service of different kinds. So you take all the good moral and ethical content in the religions, but you don't need God for this practice of religions for atheists. Mm?
Doesn't that sound like old Chinese philosophy?
Yeah, you can, yeah, yes. You can say that. Mm. It's a kind of
And talking about
life,
talking about new religions, I'm thinking of the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster.
Oh.
I'm sure you heard about
I don't know about
that. You haven't heard about it?
No, Spaghetti Monster.
Yeah.
No? Is that an Italian religion?
I would think so. Maybe his father was Italian. No.
Mm-hmm.
This took place in the United States, 2005, when there was these big discussions on the university level from the Christian religions, and those that were very very religious. What do you call them?
Fundamentalists? Or
Yeah, more or less,
extremists
semi-fundamentalists, you know, which you have a lot of in the United States. They wanted to have the creation instead of the evolution theory.
Oh yes, the creationists.
That's right.
They call, yes.
Yeah, they even call it creationists,
Yes,
that's right.
Yeah.
And there was this big discussion, particularly in Florida and some of the southern states. And one scientist then started this religion, which is officially recognized in the United States. In Russia, I just have been to Russia and I learned about it when I talked to some of my friends there. You know, they said, yeah, we have that religion here, and they demonstrating sometimes. And the most interesting thing that took place about a month ago, you could see it on the internet and it was in the newspaper. In Czechoslovakia, a chap insisted on his driving license to have this, when you have the spaghetti, you should release the water away, you know, what you call that thing. So he had that on his head. Taking the photo, which should be included in the driving license. And the matter went all the way up to the highest court. And they decided in Czech Republic, yes, this is a recognized religion, so he has the right to demand that. Okay. So he got the driving license with that thing on his head.
Okay, I will check that out.
You didn't see that?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Good, thank you for the tip. In May 1993, there was an interesting case in the European Court of Human Rights. It was a case in Greece where I don't have to explain this particular situation, but what the European Court of Human Rights wrote in the comment was that freedom of thoughts, conscience and religion is one of the foundations of a democratic society. it's a kind of a very strong valuation about the religion's the importance of the religion within the society. So it's one of the foundations of a democratic society. It is in its religious dimension one of the most vital elements that got to make up to the identity of believers and their conception of life. But it is also a precious asset for atheists, agnostics, skeptics and the unconcerned. The pluralism is indissociable from democratic society, which has been dearly won over the centuries, depends on it. It's quite a very strong explanation about the importance of the religion. So it's not that just here that religion is something that has to be protected. It is also a value in itself, an intrinsic value for the importance of understanding some very foundational democratic rights within the society. So this is a very strong sentence from the European Court. But when you are talking about religion as a particular kind of concept in Europe, we understand religion as a part of a democratic society, by some regarded as a particular object separate from the rest of the society. So in Europe it has become like from the Enlightenment that religion has been separated as a particular object, not interacted with the science or the rest of society. So in the 20th century the religion became more and more secular in that meaning, that religion was regarded as some private, or the belief in the religion regarded as something private. But the practice of the religion, for example baptism, or if you are the funerals are held in churches and so on, the practices and the rituals of the religion, that is a majority that upholds those practices. But the beliefs in the religion, that is regarded as a private matter, and that is the freedom to a conscience, or a freedom of belief, of faith. So in that way, religion has in Europe, in Northern Europe, then become as a separated particular object. And that is also an explanation or a point when you think about the secularist identity in the Northern Europe, that you separate the rituals from the belief. So it's not always similar. And also that the religion and state need to be separated when it comes to legislation, law and political organizations of democracy. And that is in Sweden and in Denmark and still in Norway. But in Sweden, for example, since we are here, it has been a long tradition since the Reformation that the church and state was one. So the Church of Sweden, it was a state church until the year 2000. You know about this. But this has consequences for the identity of the religion, because then the official religion would be the Church of Sweden, a Protestant Christian church, and then the other religions, or the other churches, would be like foreigners to the main identity of the state religion. So for example, one bishop in the Church of Sweden told me once that he had invited the imam in Karlstad, you know, Karlstad in the middle of Sweden, and he came and they drank tea together, and it was very a good talk, and they sat and chat to each other. and then this bishop asked the imam what he thought about the Church of Sweden, if you had any opinions, or, oh, I'm a member of the Church of Sweden, he said. What? Are you a member of Church of Sweden? Yes, yeah, because when I moved here to Sweden, I had to fill in this form when I moved into this land, and people there told me that, oh, everyone in Sweden are a member of the Church of Sweden, so you just have to fill in this form. So it was a member of the Church of Sweden. But that was like in the middle of, at the end of the 80th or something. So that wouldn't happen today. But it's not very long time ago, since the identity in Sweden was that we are the Church of Sweden, and that is the state church. So even though it feels like 100 years ago, because so much have happened in our thinking about religion in Sweden, but it actually is not. It's very late since that change arrived. And also that religion in a secular society is regarded as a private matter. That is, you can believe or not believe whatever you want, but you cannot claim to make your belief or non-belief dominant for others. So in regard to the conscience and the faith, you are free to believe whatever you want. But you can never force someone to believe in your church or your religion. Actually, in Sweden, we had a practice a long time until, I think it was till 1986, that newborn children were automatically members of the Church of Sweden. Even if they weren't baptized, they were members just by birth. So you can say that Sweden, for a long time, really didn't practice this aspect of this article in the human rights perspective. In this third point. And there are common beliefs, religious rituals, customs that becomes invisible since they are so integrated with a cultural identity. And there is, for example, next weekend there is All Saints Day, and then a lot of us go to the cemeteries to light candles for the dead. And you have you been to the cemeteries where all the candles are? So that is kind of religious practice that there are still used or practiced among common people. And maybe people don't think of it as religious rituals, but the roots are religious, and so you have this cultural identity with the roots in the religions, but they become like popular cultural identity markers.
Yeah, so far I can see the point 4 here reminds of Marc Lilla, the French philosopher. He's talking about the separation, and his big work is the stillborn God. It's going on and on and on.
Yeah.
I realize it when I see your point
Yeah.
there.
Yes. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So we have a self-identity in Sweden that we are very secular here, and the researchers have told described Sweden as the most secular country in the world, abandoned by God and so on, because people here don't believe. But don't really believe, I don't accept that fact, because you have all these kind of rituals that people really practice, and they have a close relation, even though they wouldn't say I believe in God, but they show it in different kind of acts and so on. There is a English sociologist, Grace Davy, who has described the Scandinavian countries as belonging without believing, while, for example, the United States is believing without belonging. So here we have, in Sweden, there are now about 65% who belong to the Church of Sweden, even after the separation in 2000. So why do people stay in the Church of Sweden if they don't believe in some way you have a relationship to the religion? A French philosopher, I guess you have heard of him, Jürgen Habermas. He's often referred to in this kind of discussions. But he describes himself as an he's an atheist, but he has a metaphor where he calls himself tone-deaf religious man. He has no sense for religion, but he is an atheist. But he since 1984 he noted, because he had always analyzed the modern society and the development of the nations and the people's minds and everything, the science and so on, that would force out the religions from the agenda. But something happened in the middle of the 80s in the Europe, so he changed his analysis and changed it rather radical, because he said that religion is not only, we don't only need religion, it is necessary for our way of understanding democracy. If we would force out religion, that would be a catastrophe also for the democratic society, for the democratic content. And he says in one of his books, if everyone equally shall be guaranteed freedom of religion, is a secular character of a state necessary. So this is a condition, a secular character of a state, but not a sufficient condition. It is not enough with a patronizing benevolence of a secular authority which tolerates historically disadvantaged minorities. So he says you have to be develop a mature character to be able to meet people with other convictions as equal. So the democracy is secular in the meaning of the content of the state, but you need to work with the character to be able to uphold that democracy. And also he says that in Europe the secular paradigm has a dominant role as a kind of neutral position, and he questions this secular paradigm as a neutral position. But in recently, the recent years, there have been quite a lot of political philosophers and also researchers in religion who now talks about a post-secular society. It is not the secularization was a way maybe to finish the consequences of the Enlightenment. But after these 200 years of confrontations between science and religion, and what you mean with knowledge, for example, there is a new era where we talk about the post-secular, and that has also consequences for the religion's own identity in the national state and so on. So I think Jürgen Habermas is an important philosopher for this kind of discussions, and he has had a very interesting dialogue with the later Pope not Johannes Paulus, but Benedictus the 16th. They had a big discussion about democracy and values. Another philosopher that I want to quote is Charles Taylor. He's a Canadian philosopher, and has also written some texts about democracy and state and religion. It is generally agreed that modern democracies have to be secular. There is perhaps a problem, a certain ethnocentricity involved in this term. But even in the Western context, the term is not limpid. What in fact does it mean? What in fact does secular mean? It's like a code word for the identity of the Western society, and we have a it's like we identify secular with enlightenment and reasonableness and so on. But what in fact does secular mean? It's like we believe that the secular should be a neutral kind of position. But of course the secularism is also a kind of ideology, a position you choose to describe a society or kind of concepts of values and so on. And then it says that the relation between nation and state is often considered from a unilateral point of view, as if it were always the nation that sought to provide itself with the state. But there is also the opposite process. To form a state in the democratic era, a society is forced to undertake the difficult and never to be completed task of defining its collective identity. So here he relate a bit to this discussion about the post-secular, what is coming after the secular era, when we have separated religion from the secular. So there is no unified approach about what religion means. It is a complex concept which relates to, for example, theology versus science of religion. It is, I would say, not on the continent, but in Scandinavia and in the analytical philosophical tradition countries like England, for example, there have been a separation between if you study theology, for example, then it means that you are studying religion from the inside. You do critique from inside the Christianity or from inside Islam, for example. If you study science of religion, religionsvetenskap as it's called in Swedish, then you study religion from outside, as a religion as a kind of object. You see the difference? So if you study theology, you would study the texts, the philosophy of ideas from the inside the religion. But the science of religion is a consequence of, I believe, as a consequence of the secularization, that we believe we can describe religion as a kind of object that we can study as we study empirical studies about how people migrate or move or whatever. So so that is two quite different way of understanding what religion is. The other is religion in relation to culture and customs, and sciences on nature. We have an example here from the creation of how were the world created, if you describe it theologian, what if you describe it theological, or if you describe it scientifical. Could that be combined? And some theologians says yes, of course you can combine it. You shall strive to combine them. Science of nature is not a contradiction to theological faith, and others would say that religion was, or the world was created like it says in the text or something. So that is two very different ways, of course, and to relate to science on nature. Of course, what does religion means in the sense that what does it present for of kind of values for ethics and philosophy of life, religion as identity and history. Sometimes it's even said that human rights has become the religion of our time, as a kind of global religion that is dominating the agenda for the values of our time. So from this first description, from the etymological description, of course when we look at this list, religion is a very complex thing, a complex area that relate to a lot of different aspects. Just to remind us that the rights of the individual, the freedom of religion is the rights of the individual that is protected in human rights perspective, and not religions as such or collective associations related to religions. But of course, when it comes to practices of religions, it is often hard to distinguish between the right of the individual and the rights for a particular group. Example, practices of circumcision or using the burqa or niqab. It has, of course, that is a freedom or limitation for the individual with these practices, but you use the practices of circumcision, for example, is not an individual matter. You relate to the group you belong to as a kind of practice within this group. So when debates about circumcision is raised in Germany a couple of years ago, whether one area there wanted to insert a kind of law for prohibition against circumcision. And also in Sweden, 1 year ago, we had a big discussion about this way of practice religion. That is the freedom of the individual, but then there are different rights that collides. In the debate here in Sweden, it was, also in Germany, the argument was that you have to protect the children from the children's what do you call it, barnkonvention, convention of the children. Do you say that in English?
Let's go.
Oh,
Child Convention.
Child Convention. Yes, thank you. Child Convention. That is so to be able to protect the children against this kind of harassment, as they call it. You have to limit the freedom of religion and let the children wait till they are old enough to choose themselves. And it's interesting here in Sweden when this debate was on the line. It was no, as I didn't hear anyone from the Muslim congregation who raised their voice in the debate. There were some Jews who were involved in this discussion, but the majority of those who debated about this issue was Christian believers who do not practice circumcision themselves, but who wanted to defend the two minority groups. And that was quite interesting that it was just this Christian group who defended the minorities' possibility to uphold their practice. Do you recognize this map? Have you seen it before?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's colorful.
It's
Religious fulfillment.
this is a very common description about the world, religious world map, and it's yeah, you see here an overview of how the dominated religions are appearing in different areas in the world. This